So a little bit about myself before I get into some of the topics that I wanted to talk about. 46 years old, I grew up in Stratford, have lived in Marathon for the last 15 years. Been married to my wife, Jen, who's been with me now for 20 years, close to, and we have 3 great kids. One just started college at UW-Oshkosh this year. She's going into the nursing field. And then I have 2 sons. One's a sophomore in high school, the other's in 7th grade. Plenty of activities, like Jack mentioned. I'm involved with a lot of different things, whether it's coaching football. I've been part of the baseball program and run our baseball program in town for the last 9 years. That's just for the City League. That's about 200 kids between the age of 1st grade and 6th grade, boys and girls wanting to play ball in town. And about eight years ago, I got approached by another town just saying, you know what, let's get some travel teams together for your town. Let's start moving around a little bit. And 8 years ago, I started the Marathon Youth Baseball Association. Hasn't stopped since. I've been coaching at least 1 or 2 travel teams all summer long for those years. Slowly rotated into still doing that, running the entire association, and now I'm the head Bronco coach, the head JV coach, and assistant varsity coach. So I'm slowing down, I'm backing off a little bit. I promised my wife after I went through the whole ordeal that we're going to talk about that I would start backing off. So recently I gave up the City League, so that was part of me backing off. So I continue to work on those different things. And then really my passion is coaching basketball. I've coached basketball now in town for 6 years. I have 2 sons that played. Some years it was coaching both of them at the same time. And again, my very loving wife knew that she wasn't going to see me most nights until it was time for bed, and then see you in the morning before I go to work. So tons of patience there, but it's just something that I feel while my kids are the age that they are, is getting involved in the community, being a part of their lives, and being a huge part of the other kids' lives in town. So the book, like I said, that wasn't a plan. A friend, after I got home from the hospital, once we get a little bit more into this, just mentioned, you know, it would probably be good if other people heard your story and know some of the things you went through and then what you're dealing with afterwards. Because it's kind of a unique situation that people don't realize exactly how bad it was. And that's what I'm here to kind of share with you today, and then what I've been doing since. So I'm going to backpedal a little bit before we get into really what happened on the worst day of my life. And it was Christmas Eve 2017, middle of the night. Basically jumped out of bed with extreme, excruciating pain shooting up my neck, the upper part of my chest, shoulders, upper back, going into my head. I've never felt pain like that before. Went down both arms with tingling sensations. My fingers were numb. Had no idea what was going on. It's Christmas Eve. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not waking everybody up. That lasted for about 20 minutes, almost to the second. So I don't want to spill a whole lot of things because some of this is in the book. But it was almost 20 minutes right on the dot. Went back to bed. It was about 2 hours later. I was back up. Worse pain than it was the first time. And as many things that I've had pain over, there was nothing that was really comparing to this. I remember laying on our closet floor. We have a big walk-in closet that partners with a laundry room. And I grabbed my phone and I looked up symptoms of a heart attack. Dizziness, drowsiness, fatigue. I got about that far. I turned my phone off. I didn't have any of those. 20 minutes, again, of pacing, laying down, rolling, whatever I could do. The morning came. My in-laws were up for Christmas dinner, and right after dinner, I could feel it coming. It always gave me like a 60-second warning, like, oh, here it comes. Laying on the bed, nothing would help. Finally decided I'm going to take a hot shower. And this isn't really relative to the heart attack yet, but you'll see the comparisons later. Took a hot shower and it helped. It was a scorching hot shower. I just put it on my neck, sat there as long as I could possibly take it. And then the rest of the day, I had 2 or 3 more throughout the day. And I just told myself, you know, the day after Christmas, I'm going to go in, figure out what's going on. Only to get there and they tell me there's nothing. They see nothing. At that point, you just rather they find something and you know what to work for. You know what to try to improve on. I missed a week of work because those pain sessions came multiple times daily, and not going back into the doctor, knowing that it wasn't my heart because it never really got as low as my chest. It stayed up higher. And finally got an appointment to see a neuroscientist, neuroscience, and did an open MRI. And after weeks of testing and doing different things, they found out I had a 3-inch bruise on my spinal cord. Spinal cord bruises don't heal. They could give me shots and medicine and all that to ease the pain. And I said I didn't want to go through like that, so we're going to try to figure something else out. For the most part, I mean, it was a painful couple months. I lived with that. Trying to coach. I'm very hands-on when it comes to coaching. I want to show my kids how to do it, not tell them how to do it. Sitting on the side during practice, giving them instructions from a chair was impossible. Calling timeouts and not even being able to crouch down in front of them. They had to crouch down around me. Was almost embarrassing because people didn't know what I was going through. And after a while, I just learned to kind of live with it. It would come and go occasionally, not as strong as it was. But eventually, I just learned to change different things in my life. I slowed down from the sports. Some of the league type things I was doing, I backed away from and just stopped completely. And that was hard, but I realized I needed to take care of my life first and my health. So then we fast forward. We get to, it'd be March 19th of 2020. And if you remember, it was about March 18th, the day before when the COVID thing hit. We were planning on that weekend, we were leaving to go to Dominican Republic, my whole family, to see a child that we have supported for the last couple of years. She was ending the program, and we were going to go down. They were going to give us 2 hours of visit with her. So we were going to make a family trip down to Dominican Republic. So this is a Thursday. We were planning on leaving Saturday morning, and everything got canceled because of COVID. Thursday night, I'm out shooting buckets. Nothing different than what I normally do. That's kind of my alone time. I try to get my boys out there, but they play enough so I don't force them. And it was actually kind of odd that night that I've played for maybe 10, 15 minutes and both boys come walking out at the same time. Usually they come out one at a time. So one of them tires me out so the next one can beat me. I don't know what their plan is, and they're not always getting along at the same time. So they both came out. They both asked me if I wanted to play 1-on-2, which I've still been capable of doing. I don't let them beat me. I push them as hard as I possibly can. Prior to that, they had beaten me once, and they should beat me every time, and I let them know that if they would just pass the ball and do the things they need to do to get me off my game. So I decided we were going to play, and by the second shot I took, I realized the pain was coming back in my neck. And it had been a while. It had been several months since I've had it, and I could feel it was getting bad. As a coach, and working with kids that are in the junior high, high school level, By the time they get into 5th, 6th grade and I'm working with them, I really start to ask them what their commitment is, because from the time you're in 6th grade, 7th grade moving forward, you're going to be sore, you're going to be bruised, you're going to have something broken, you're going to ache, your body's not going to be allowed to rest if you're going from sport to sport to sport. They have to be prepared for that, and part of that is just mental toughness, and then the other part is physical toughness. So as I try to teach that to my boys especially, and then the boys that I coach, I'm sitting here and after 2 shots, I don't know that I can go any further. And what kind of an example is that to my boys? They knew that. They knew of my recent neck problems. Didn't matter, they were going to take full advantage of that because they wanted to win and they saw their opportunity. So every time they handed me the ball, I couldn't drive, I wasn't playing defense, I literally just took the ball, shot it. They beat me 10-3, I wasn't too happy about it, but they won. I told them good job, and I went in and immediately took one of those hot showers again. Came out, felt good. I did have a fear immediately when I was playing basketball, like this thing's back, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to deal with that for too much longer. So Thursday came and gone, Friday came and gone. Saturday morning was the morning we were supposed to leave to Dominican Republic. And I had gotten a bunch of paneling from a place that I used to work. I worked at Wausau Supply here in town for 20 years. Got some paneling, just some accent paneling I wanted to put up in one of the walls of our bathroom. And it's about 6 feet wide. The panels needed about an inch cut off of them, so not a big job. But my wife and daughter wanted no part of that paneling in that bathroom. So after years of telling them I really want to put that up there, I need to accent it, I need some color in that room, they agreed to do it. So that Saturday morning was the morning I got to get going on this project. By 10 o'clock, I had the bathrooms right out off the garage when you come into the house. Had everything set up in the garage. Had the trim pulled off in the bathroom, and I start laying the first couple pieces. I get about 4 or 5 pieces on, and I could feel that neck pain coming back. And it's the same pain I've always had. The tingling of the fingers, that was nothing new. The excruciating pain in the shoulders, upper chest, up the back of my neck. 15 minutes into working, I'm taking a hot shower. Come back and get a couple more pieces on, back in the shower. By then we're out of hot water. I got 3 kids that take 40-minute showers and dishwasher running, wash machine running. So by the second one, I knew that if this comes up again, I'm not going to be able to take another shower because the water heater's not going to be able to keep up. I get about halfway up the wall and I have to notch out the paneling for the electrical box that's sitting there. So I do the first piece, and instead of going to take a shower, I just put the toilet seat down and I sat there and I just breathed, trying to collect everything because the pain was coming again. I was trying to get in front of it. It helped somewhat, but it was the same pain. I finished that wall having to take 4 hot showers and sat on the toilet seat 5 different times to try to catch my breath. So a project that should have taken me half hour was a couple hours. I wasn't going to leave it undone because I had begged them to let me do it. And you know, I keep talking about toughness, and at this point it was stubbornness. I got everything out to the garage. I didn't pick everything up. I just went in and laid on the couch and really felt good. And I thought, well, maybe I was just pushing it too hard. Maybe it was something I wasn't used to doing. I'm not real crafty on stuff, so it was just something different than what I typically don't do. And my typical self, I typically can't sit for too long. So a couple hours later, I'm up making chili because I had a hunger for chili. I was trying to get it done quick before my daughter went to work. And we got the chili done, got done eating. We were cleaning up. It was a little early, and that just happened to be the same day that the City League baseball and softball registration forms were due. And I have a P.O. box downtown for those. So I told my wife I'm going to run down to the post office and I'm going to go get those registration forms. And the minute I walked into the post office, that pain came back. It seemed different. It seemed heavier than what it was before. I grabbed the mail, got out to the car, grabbed my phone, and I swear I looked at the exact same website I looked at in 2017 when I looked up symptoms of a heart attack. I wasn't dizzy, I wasn't nauseous, I wasn't fatigued. But the drive home, which is only about 2 minutes from the post office, was the longest drive I've ever had. I ran straight through the kitchen, living room, my bedroom, tried to get to another hot shower, expecting that there wasn't a lot of hot water left. Standing in the shower, I already had the handle turned more towards hot than what I typically do, so I know I didn't have a lot of time in there. And the pain was just excruciating, horrible. I'm laying on our shower floor. We got like a 6x6 walk-in, so I was trying to get comfortable there, but the water was so cold, even if I turned it all the way to hot by the time it hit the floor. It wasn't doing anything. I would stand, I'd prop myself up in the corner to have the nozzle spraying on the back of my neck as hot as it could. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. And as I'm standing there, all of a sudden I realized my right arm isn't numb anymore, just my left arm is numb. I yelled for Jen to call the ambulance, and that understanding is what the doctor told me saved my life. Understanding that there was definitely something different and it wasn't the same old thing. So she called the ambulance. Luckily, we live right in town. A lot of the EMTs live pretty close. Within about 5 minutes, there were some first responders in the house, friends of mine that were trying to ease the pain. By then, I knew I had to get out of the shower, dry myself off. I was laying on the closet floor when they got there. They were trying to console me. First responders really can't give you anything to ease the pain. So you're basically just sitting there waiting for an ambulance. So we already had one coincidence that we should have been on a plane to Dominican Republic that morning. The second coincidence, which I don't necessarily believe are coincidences anymore, is that we share, in Marathon, we share an ambulance with Edgar, and the ambulance resides in Edgar. When she called the ambulance was coming back from Wausau, heading to Edgar, and they just happened to be at the Marathon ramp. So the ambulance was there within a couple minutes after the first responders. If they would have been back in Edgar, since it's volunteer fire department and EMTs, it probably would have been a half an hour, 40 minutes before they got there. Right as they were ready to put me up on the stretcher to get me out of the house, and again, my family's still under the suspicion it's the neck. Hugely embarrassing. I got a neck problem, I need to be put on a stretcher. At this point, I kind of knew something was different. I knew it wasn't the neck anymore. I knew it had to be something different. And it was excruciating pain. They couldn't get me to settle down. I was rolling around just trying to get rid of the pain. The pain was so bad in my left arm and in my chest. And it had gone away from my neck, and it was just really focused on the left arm and the chest. Just before they said, all right, let's get him up on the stretcher, there was a calmness. And I just remember that calmness, and I told them, give me 20 seconds. I was able to stand up, get on the stretcher by myself, and the pain stopped for like 15 seconds. Then on the stretcher again, it came back up. They're strapping me down in, they're getting me out into the ambulance. I'm screaming for them to get me some pain medicines, anything to take. They said they don't have it, they can't. So on the 1-year anniversary of when this happened, I was doing a presentation like this for the Edgar and Marathon EMTs and first responders. It's hard to believe they never hear the good news. They're typically looking in an obituary. They're not looking for people to come back and share their story. So if you ever go through something like this, I can tell you they appreciate that if you go back and talk with them. But I got to about this point in the story, and I was talking about, I remember in the ambulance, there was a guy down at my feet, there was a guy up by my head, and the guy up by my head just kept poking my face, and I was ready to punch him, honestly. I'm in excruciating pain here, and you keep poking me in the face, you know, and he's explaining, he's just trying to keep me awake. The last thing they want you to do is go out. It was nonstop poking. I felt like we were moving. We were gonna go wait on the Marathon exit ramp for the second ambulance to come. And then they were gonna transport me into that, and then they would have the medications and the personnel that needed to take care of me to get me to the hospital. So we're driving along, and this is where one of the EMTs, the one that actually was in the ambulance with me, he stopped me and he says, "You don't remember anything else between then and getting to the hospital?" I said, "No, I just, the one thing I remember, and then I was out, was I heard a pair of scissors. The guy down by my feet, at first I thought, is this really a joke? He's gonna get out a pair of scissors and he's snipping away. And to look down, he's cutting off my shorts and my underwear to get me prepped for wherever I was going. I was a little frustrated because they were my favorite Michael Jordan shorts. I knew I shouldn't have wore them, and he cut them to shreds just to get them off. And then the next thing I really remembered was they opened the ambulance door and the sunlight hit me. I was wearing a sheet about the thickness of a piece of paper, and it was cold. And the EMT that was in the ambulance with me, he stopped and he's just like, "You were gone." I'm like, "What?" I go, I know I had been resuscitated, but I was told it was at the hospital. He's like, "No, about 4 blocks down from your house, we had to stop. And we had to have somebody else jump in the back with us. And they had to electronically resuscitate me for about 2 minutes I was gone." That was hard to take. That really made me realize how short this time on earth is. What thought to be maybe a neck injury, and my family thinking, oh, he's just gonna go get his neck checked. Might have been the last time they see me on a stretcher. And my daughter wasn't even home, so she wouldn't have even gotten to see me. Get to the hospital, and like I said, I remember them rolling me into the emergency room, and the chaos. These people are amazing. There had to be 15 people in a room about a tenth of this size, running around. They have me strapped in. I could move my eyes. Nobody's bumping into each other, and one guy's talking. It literally, I remember thinking, this is like a movie. They put the air mask on me to give me some air. I immediately threw up my chili dinner in that. So now I have pneumonia because I swallowed in my own food, or I breathed in my own food. And I'm out. I'm out at that point. So it's COVID. My wife's at home not knowing exactly what's going on yet. Boys are at home with her, my daughter's at work. And it was about 2 hours into it. My wife hadn't gotten a call yet. The hospitals are shorthanded. All the new procedures that were going on with COVID, nobody knew what was going on. And she finally got a hold of somebody up there, and they're like, because I had nothing with me, and she couldn't ride in the ambulance with me. They really didn't have a lot on me, and they didn't really know how to get a hold of her, apparently. I don't know how that completely works, but they told her she needs to come up here immediately by herself. They had lost me again in surgery. They had to resuscitate me for a long period of time, and things aren't going well right now, and she needs to get up here as soon as possible. You know, and to her surprise, she's still thinking neck and thinking, how bad is this neck injury? And then when she looked online while she was talking to them, she realized or saw that it went from whatever neck problem it was to a cardiac problem. So she dropped what she was doing. The hard part is we couldn't have anybody come over to our house. Our boys were old enough, but with that sort of news, we didn't know exactly how they would take it if they're home by themselves. My mother-in-law was coming over, but that was going to be another 20 minutes. Jen really didn't feel comfortable asking friends because of COVID. We didn't know what that was going to do. So she stopped down at where my daughter worked in town, told her she needs to get home. She went and continued her way to the hospital. Hospital was basically shut down. She had to go in. They directed her to the basement. That was the only place they were allowing people to go. She sat in a waiting room for about an hour with no contact until a minister came and sat with her, prayed with her, talked with her about different things. Then they moved her to another waiting room in the basement. Still no idea what was going on or how bad it necessarily was, other than that phone call that she took. And all this time, I'm in surgery, obviously don't know what's going on. And her expectation is, you know, they're gonna call her pretty soon. I'm gonna be sitting in the room next to my doctor. Doctor's gonna be saying, hey, this was a close one. We need to take it easy. You need to rest. You need to relax. And really didn't get any preface when she went to walk into my room when they finally let her in that I would be sitting there hooked up to every tube you could possibly hooked up to and every wire that could be possibly put into your body. She had lots of questions. They didn't have really many answers. And all she knew is that I was there. She knew I had a heart attack. She knew it was pretty well full closure on one of my arteries. And she was also told once she leaves, she can't come back. Into the morning, the next morning, I think they woke me because there was a bunch of people in my room. They were trying to ask me questions even though I couldn't answer because I had tubes in my throat. And they were really shocked that I motioned with my hand that I wanted to write the answers. Because the only thing they told my wife the night before was, we don't think he has any brain damage. Talking to her afterwards, that obviously scared her. But they were being honest with her. They were trying to tell her as much as they could, but they honestly didn't know a lot themselves other than the blockage that I had. So the doctors were very impressed with the fact that I was able to write. By that afternoon, I had all the tubes out of me, and to their surprise, I was walking around the ICU, almost like nothing happened, just a little slower. By that afternoon, I was able to order my own lunch already. Walking around the ICU the next day, pretty much full freedom. They didn't have to get me out of bed anymore. And it was that second night I stayed there, I had a male nurse come in and we were talking, and he said, do you know what happened Saturday night? I'm like, yeah, I knew I had a heart attack. He's like, do you want to know more? And I'm like, man, yes, no. I did and I didn't really. You know, my wife and I had talked on the phone a little bit before that, and she asked if I wanted to know what happened or wanted to talk about it, and I said, no, not really. I didn't know what my kids knew at the time, what she had told them. So he said he was there Saturday night, but I wasn't one of his patients. He wasn't in that emergency. They were pretty slow up there. I was only one of 3 people in the whole emergency room that night. And he's just like, well, they lost you before you got here, and at the so emotional time, knowing I wasn't going to have visitors, knowing what I went through, knowing I'm going to be alone for a couple days because there's no visitors. So I had to stop him, and then he started going again. He's like, well, and they lost you in surgery too, and that's probably why they told your wife to come up here as soon as they could. So a couple more seconds to let that really soak in. And he goes, do you realize how lucky you are? And he said something like, and I'm not going to quote it exactly, but the big guy upstairs must have favor in you because he's giving you more time that you probably shouldn't have had. He's like, do you want to know more? And I'm like, at this point, you've told me quite a bit, so let's just finish this off. Sorry, this one always chokes me up a little bit, but he said, that night the doctors gave you a 4% chance of making it through the night. Out of that 4% chance, you had a 10% chance of coming out of there even close to what you went in. So whether that's memory loss, losing functionality in limbs, for as long as I was out, could there be something with brain damage yet that they don't know about? So 4%, and then only a 10% chance off of that to actually go in like I went, or come out like I went in. And the problem is he didn't know me, so I'm sitting there asking him all these questions. Well, am I talking normal? And do I look normal when I walk around the ICU? He goes, well, you look fine to me, but you know, I really don't know you. He goes, but right now the doctors are amazed that you're even out of bed, and the fact that you're walking around most of the day, and you're doing things on your own and ordering your own stuff. They really don't know how, because you're not supposed to be here. He just looked at me point blank and he goes, God's got something more for you to do. You're not supposed to be here. That's a long 2 more days of sitting up there with that weighing on you. My book is called Time Out, which I got. I didn't call it, but I got a timeout. And then the rest of the title is What's the Plan? I don't know the plan. And I just sat there thinking about, what am I going to do with this? I don't tell you guys a story, or I haven't shared the story, or I haven't wrote a book for people to be like, whoa, what was him? Man, he went through all this. Let's feel sorry for him, all that. I want to share this with you because even when you go through that and you realize that I was gone twice, the doctors are telling me that I shouldn't have made it through the night. My doctors now are still shocked that I'm even still with them. After follow-up appointments of basically beating my heart to death with electronics or resuscitation in any manner, how I can get back into those and blow away a stress test, which they said they have never seen. I had 0 heart scar tissue on my heart after all the resuscitation that happened, and none of my heart walls were damaged in any way, to the point of the 2 people doing the ultrasound said if they wouldn't have had the records of me having the heart attack that I had, in which honestly was probably 7 or 8 of them that morning, they wouldn't have even known I had a heart attack. So it's 2 days of sitting in bed, wondering what I'm going to do. I felt like I had to do something, say something. I can't tell you how many times I got asked while I was at the hospital, you know, what are you going to do with your second chance of life? I had a friend when I got home from the hospital then, and there was no plans of doing this. She just reached out to me and said, you know, maybe you could save somebody's life if you just shared your story. And shared the fact that men are stubborn, which we are. I actually had an article in the paper, and I think that's the first sentence that the reporter put in there was men are stubborn, so it started off to a really good spot, but we are for the most part, and we like to toughen through things. We like to fight through pain. One of the biggest things I was worried about is, between my neck injuries, the heart attack, I also had emergency gallbladder removed. I've torn calf muscles, I've hamstring pulls, whatever. At some point, my record's getting kind of rough, and I'm a guy that's trying to stand there and be strong for my family and my kids, and not let them see a weakness or that he can't handle something. But the thing that saved my life is I finally just said, enough's enough, something is wrong, and if I would have waited 5 more minutes, I wouldn't be here today. There would be no book, there would be no opportunity to share with you what God has now done in my life. And what that is the plan, I still don't know. But the thing is I keep looking. I keep trying to find out what that plan is. For many years, as long as I can remember, I've struggled with the power of prayer. Before we eat, we pray. Before we go to bed, we pray. In church, we pray. I struggled with the fact that I knew those words without even thinking of them. I struggled with the fact is God really considering this a prayer if I'm just reciting it? Now, I still do those prayers. I think they're good to do with the family. We do those in church. But what's opened up to me is how powerful prayer is. One, seeing the cards and the number of people that reached out to Jen and my family while I was in the hospital, and how many people say they're praying for you, I think they were. Especially knowing that I wasn't even supposed to come home. When I started really telling myself to concentrate on prayer, which I had never done before. Like I said, I did it at supper, I did it at nighttime, did it in church. That was as far as it went. I never had a conversation with God. For almost 2 years now, I've had a conversation with him every single day. It's not timed. It's not rehearsed. There's no set time. There's no topic. It's just an open conversation that I always felt was one-sided. And it really feels two-sided because it just, I'm going to put it this way. A lot of people have asked me about this because it is in the book. The power of prayer and what I started to do is in the book. And the people that have read that have asked, one, where do you find the time? I make the time. What do you know what to pray about? You can't run out of things to pray about. There's so many things that you can pray about now. Even if you just went with the health side of things, just praying for that. And the other question was, well, doesn't that make it more stressful? Are you worried you're going to forget about somebody, or worried to pray about this? And I'm like, as much as trying to remember everything that I want to pray for, it's really freed me. Because when I'm able to talk to God and get that out there and just get it out of my system, because I like to hold a lot of things in myself, it is so free feeling. I just feel like, whew, I got that all out. And I've bottled that up in there for 40 some years. Because that's honestly how I felt for all those years. And that wasn't even going to be part of the book. I got to the end of, most of the stuff I had written down after I got out of the hospital. Every word in here is my word. I wrote down every single thing I remember. I wrote down every single thing my wife told me about when we were sitting waiting for all my prescriptions in the pharmacy line. That's what the book was about, and I get to the end, and it's just like, this ain't a book. I mean, it's 30 pages. And I really prayed of what was going to be next in the book. One was the power of prayer, which going from somebody that honestly really didn't believe in it at all, or very little, to someone that does it every single day and enjoys that time alone. It also brought to my attention my lack or different levels of prioritizing. I shared with you what I do in my community, not because to get a pat on the back. I do it because I choose to. So whenever somebody tells me, oh man, you're so busy, how do you fit this in? I choose busy. I don't want somebody to feel sorry for me because I coach 50 sports. That's what I choose to do. But the problem is, there was many times over the years, and my wife is too strong to say anything about it or make me recognize it, but it took this book and what I went through to realize that my priorities weren't straight. Baseball should never come first. Honestly, my kids should never come first. And this was the longest part of the book to write. This is the one where I just had to sit in a different room. This wasn't about remembering anything. It was about really looking in the mirror and reflecting on what I needed to be, or what I needed to be at least moving forward. Point blank, God has to be put number one. I can't look for the simple excuse of, oh, can't go to church today, we got a baseball tournament. There's other ways to be involved with church, to make sure I have that priority. And I can still go do a baseball tournament or a basketball tournament, but I need to make sure God is at the top of that list. I need to make sure that I'm reading God's word. Never done that before. What an eye-opening experience. And I'm only about halfway through the Old Testament of all the great things that he's done for everybody. It's hard. It's hard for me to say I can't put my kids first. I think I grew up into fatherhood thinking that these three are the most important things in my life. I think there's probably several of you or a lot of men out there that are thinking, it's our responsibility to take care of our kids. They need us probably more than anybody. But I've made it very completely firm to them, and they've read my book, that God is first and their mother is second. Jen has to be second, because without Jen and I doing what we need to do to make sure we live a Christian life and follow God, we would probably lose control of our three kids, and we got to stay together on that. So Jen and I have made a very conscious effort to spend more time together. I've backed out of some of my responsibilities of coaching to make sure I do that. Really have time where we can just sit, and even if it's just planning the next week's meals, talking about work, which I don't like to do, but I do it for her because she wants to know, and then listening to her about her work, which is also tough for me to do. I like to leave work different than home. But we've really opened up just to do that. Me being willing to do some of the things more that she's wanting to do, instead of saying, you know what, no, I got to run off. There's open gym or there's practice or whatever. And just try to delegate that to some other coaches and move forward with that. And then I put my kids third. I think they struggled with that. you like the, even still standing up here, I feel guilty because I still feel like they're the most important things in my life. But I really needed to get that priority straight. So it's God, my wife, my kids, and I have some friends and family in the room too. You're next. I mean, I put you there. It doesn't mean I don't love those people as much as the others. It's just I need to make sure those 3 top priorities are straight in my life. And in this book, if you want to purchase one, there's some out there. But if you get the book, understand that's kind of where it's going. It's really talking about the power of prayer, on how I got through this, and then prioritizing my life. I have never been happier in my entire life. My marriage has never been as good as it is right now. My relationship with my boys, especially, my daughter's off to school, and that's just a special father-daughter relationship anyways, but my relationship with my boys about just backing off and not pushing them so hard to do their best has been good. And honestly, just staying home some nights has been great as well, and saying no to all the extracurricular activities that people want me to do. So that's all I have today. I appreciate the time. Jack, thanks for introducing me. Tracy, thanks for inviting me. Joel, thanks for having me. I really enjoy speaking in front of a group like this, and just if you walk out of here with anything, what I've told all the groups that I've talked to before is there's somebody waiting for a conversation. It took me 45 years to find out that I could talk to somebody at any time. We don't need to put it in a calendar. I don't need to schedule an appointment. And the first couple times you might not feel anything, but a couple times into it, you'll feel like somebody's listening, someone's responding, and somebody's really looking out for you. Thanks for coming today. Thank you.